Hello, and welcome back to the Writer Wizard podcast. Now, I know it's been some time, and I'm sorry, but been doing a lot of reviews with my daughter. She's been really into making reviews lately, so I hope you all have caught that and actually been enjoying. We just are about to finish the Harry Potter franchise. It's been an interesting ride. Um, It's also opened up my eyes. So, what am I going to talk about today? Well, in today's, I'm going to be talking about Hogwarts Legacy, giving you my review of the game, and I'm also going to be talking about Matt Walsh and some comments and stuff that he's made recently. And I'm going to kind of segue into a similar topic and kind of give you my overall thoughts on what I think of the world and what's going on, and maybe some, I don't know, crazy conspiracy theories, I guess would be the best uh, form to put that in. But in my opinion, it's the truth. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. All right, so Hogwarts Legacy. Now, if you have been living under a rock for some reason, or you have had no interest in gaming, this has been quite an interesting ride with this game. First off, I've been live streaming, and I honestly thought on YouTube I would get a bunch more views just because of how many people are talking about this game, all the controversy with this game, all the boycotting. You know, I kept hearing about streamers getting bashed left and right, whether they're big names, little names, just constantly harassed in their comment section. I didn't experience any of that. I mean, it would have been cool on some level because then I would have, oh, hey, I got a viewer. Even if the viewer's not saying very nice things. So I was a little underwhelmed with that bit, but this is mostly going to be about the game itself. So, to be honest and fair, I'm only about maybe, I think about 75% of the way through the main storyline. I still have a bunch of side quests to do. I could probably have the main quest line done in the next week or two. With that said, while there is a ton of content and the gameplay is very good, I will admit, the gameplay is good. I do have several issues. Now, I'm not going to point out the same thing every other player online has pointed out about being disappointed about no Quidditch, because I really don't care one way or the other, especially after witnessing the broom mechanics. Flying on a broom is good, but it's not great. Sometimes it feels a little sluggish, or if you make just the slightest turn, it gets a little wobbly. Maybe that's just because I'm not used to it, even though I'm trying. But yeah, the gameplay on the broom is not the greatest. Plus, it would have been interesting to at least be able to cast basic spells, especially since you can be shot at from the ground by other evil wizards. I do have basically a lot of criticism, but I want you to know overall, I do like this game. If I was going to score this game on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give this a 7. And mostly because of the facts of several things. Number one, while it looks like Hogwarts, and there are definitely some places that feel like Hogwarts, with the surrounding area and the map layout, it doesn't quite match either the book series or the movie franchise. And what I mean by this is, first off, the Gryffindor common room was in this stairwell where the stairs moved. Like, they moved up, down, left, right. There is some stairs that kind of move. Well, actually, they just kind of disappear and then reappear right as you're about to walk on it. Basically, kind of pointless. But the staircases, like in the movie, they actually moved. And I believe that was the same location in the book. However, in the game, you're down some random hallway. And honestly, after you start the game, there's really no reason, unless you collect these one things, which I haven't even started collecting yet. There's no real reason to go back to the common room. You don't have a storage box. You don't have a closet to put your clothes in. So there's no reason to be traveling back to the common room. Now, you'll automatically wake up there sometimes after doing certain quests or something, and after a season change, it'll automatically put you back in that room. But, I mean, you can just fast travel away like you never were there. If anything, you're going to use the room of requirement more than you're going to go to the common room. So that right there kind of takes the feeling of being at Hogwarts out of it. Another thing that I feel was a big mistake is the day-night sequence. There's really no reason for it. Not at all. You can walk around anywhere. The only reason the day-night sequence really exists is to have certain things you can only do at night, like the star map tables or these little statues that you have to find and grab a moon off of. Other than that, there's no reason for it really to be at night. When you're walking around the castle at night, yeah, there's no students around, but that's just it. There's nothing around. Unless you're on some kind of mission, you don't have to avoid prefects, ghosts, or nothing. You can just roam the castle freely at night. Which, once again, this is something that kind of makes it feel like, oh, that's kind of underwhelming, you know? At least if you had a time limit and you were deciding to stay out overnight, then you would have some risk at exploring the castle at night. Now, if you were outside the castle, fine, whatever. Because, yes, you do have to play the game, and eventually you are going to be stuck outside the castle, and it's going to probably turn night. So if you're outside the castle grounds, that's fine. But if you're inside the castle grounds and you're caught, first off, I mean, like I said, there is no one to catch you. But if they did have something, they could have it where, like, you're automatically sent back to your room and then now it's morning. You know? And maybe you lost points for your house. Which I kind of feel like that's something else, too, is, like, there's no reason to have the house system except for that it was in the movies and it was in the books. So, that right there is underwhelming. Going back to my first point, there's also several locations around the map of Hogwarts where it doesn't quite feel like it lines up. For instance, the Forbidden Forest is slightly to the north of Hogwarts, while the Quidditch field is to the southeast of Hogwarts, which anyone who's read the books and anyone who's watched, I mean, it's not really in the movies as much as, specifically where everything is, but there is a line, there is a section in the books which clearly makes you realize that the Quidditch field is right near the edge of the Forbidden Forest. So is Hagrid's hut. It's also not far from the Forbidden Forest. In the first movie, as they're walking on their detention, they go up to Hagrid's hut, and Hagrid's hut is almost like right there on the edge. In the books, there is a little bit of a there's a big part of a chapter, actually I believe it's Order of the Phoenix, when he takes them to go see Grop, his brother, and Hagrid takes them to see Grop, and they go into the Forbidden Forest, him and Hermione, and as they're coming out of the Forbidden Forest, they can already hear the crowds cheering, and they think that Gryffindor lost. Only that when they finally, blend in with the crowd, to realize that actually Gryffindor won. And it was all thanks to Ron. So the way it's set up does not match the books or the movies, because both indicate that the Quidditch field should be close by. Now you can always say, now maybe something will happen in this game that will absolutely destroy the original Quidditch field, but the Quidditch field, I will say, does look spot on to what it looked like in the movies. I have flown around it. I've flown inside it. I've flown in that little trench, the same one Harry and Malfoy flew through when chasing the snitching Chamber of Secrets. So, I mean, that they did get pretty good. And they do get the outer look of Hogwarts really good. I feel like the Grand Hall was quite a bit shorter than it should have been. I feel like it's much longer in the movies, but maybe that's just me nitpicking. There's also like these other areas in the Great Hall that you can explore, which again, it just doesn't feel quite right. And there's several things like, there should be several bathrooms to explore. Yet I've only been able to find a handful. I've been looking for the bathroom where Slytherin's mark is to see where the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets is. Now, I know I may not be able to activate it, but I should be able to see it. I should be able to see that bathroom, and I don't. The mermaid glass in the prefect bathroom. Okay, so even if there's only the one prefect bathroom, the mermaid glass does not look exactly like it did in the movies. I don't know if that's just because they didn't have the rights or what, but I feel like they tried really hard, but just didn't quite nail it. So it doesn't quite feel like the Hogwarts that you know. So it's Hogwarts, it's like Hogwarts, but an imitation of Hogwarts. Another problem I had is with all the controversy, which if you, like I said, were under a rock and you don't know nothing about it, basically, people who claim to be advocates of the trans community, and I don't actually believe that the trans people themselves had a problem with this, because I've actually seen many YouTube videos that have pointed out that trans people are not the ones leading this charge. It's other people leading this charge. People who have nothing to do with these trans people. that have basically said, no, they're crazy. They're not with us. They don't speak for us. And yet these advocates are going out of their way and saying, well, because J.K. Rowling made this comment several years ago, you need to ban the game. So because one person, the person who created this stuff originally, made a comment you didn't like, you're going to hurt every person that worked on this game. All the people who put their time and effort to trying to make something that the fans of the book series and the fans of the movies would enjoy, you're going to hurt those people because one person said something you didn't like, who actually has nothing to do with this game. That was the controversy. That was what these people were so upset about, is because J.K. Rowling basically said the truth that there are two genders. And they were in an uproar saying, oh, you got to boycott this game. Well, look at how well that has worked out for them. This game has sold more copies than several games in the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years. And it just came out like a month ago. Like, we're getting close to the middle of March, and it came out around the beginning, sometime in the middle of February. So, in less than a month, it's already about let's see, I think Elder Scrolls is still higher, but it's been out for over a year or about a year, and it's catching up to Elder Scrolls in its first month. Wait till this thing comes out on PS4, Xbox One, and even the Switch. People are going to buy it for the Switch, even if they already own it for the PlayStation 5, because then they can play it on the go. Even if they buy it for the PS4, they're still going to probably buy it for the Switch so they can play it on the go. They'll probably want a copy. And yes, it is very possible. It is very true that a good portion of these people are doing this merely because they're being told not to by crazy people. But to that, I have two things to say. Number one, if that's the case, then Warner Brothers would be stupid, so astronomically insane and stupid to not be pumping out as much Harry Potter content as possible. I'm talking finish the Fantastic Beasts movies. Announce a green light for Hogwarts Legacy 2 or another Hogwarts game altogether. Start a TV series on HBO Max that tells the story of the 4 founders of Hogwarts and how they came together, started the school, and what drove them apart. And the series could end with, the war against Salazar Slytherin and why he left or his banishment or whatever happened. That would be an awesome series. First off, I know many fans of the Harry Potter franchise that would love to see that story play out on screen. And if you did it as a TV show, it could be great. And that is where they need to do, because they could stand to make so much money because these people telling you to boycott, they're not going to go away. They're going to be like, oh, well, now boycott this, boycott that, boycott this, boycott that. And the more they do it, the more money you're going to make. Bring back Johnny Depp if possible. Bring back Mads Mikkelsen for the next Fantastic Beasts movie. And then have him do something like near the beginning that turns him back into Johnny Depp. You know, that would be epic. And that would get so many people back in your seats to watch those movies. So, Warner Brothers, if that's the case, if you want to make a ton of money, this is your iron. Hit it. Of course, there is the suspicious side of me that goes, isn't this very convenient? That the more that these people will not stop. I mean, they see the sales rising the more they try to boycott this game, and yet instead of doing the smart thing and shutting up, they keep going at it. They keep pushing, doubling, tripling down on this rhetoric that, oh, you got to boycott it because J.K. Rowling, even though so many YouTubers have pointed out, she doesn't make very much from this. She doesn't make $5 for every game sold. She got a large chunk of money, maybe got to look at what they wanted to do as far as the story goes, approved it, and that was it. Then it was on them. Okay, go make your game. Good luck with that. But no, even though so many YouTubers have pointed this out, they keep boycotting it. And it keeps selling more and more and more. So that leaves me to wonder, are we all being played then? I mean, if Warner Brothers is not pushing this and like saying, okay, we're greenlighting this Harry Potter franchise and this one and this one and this one, if they're just doing it for this, testing the water, are they doing it on purpose? Did they set all this up? Are they pretending to be all these accounts and doubling down just to get more people to go buy their game? If so, I gotta say, that's pretty diabolical. Either way, like I said, I do have one more final gripe with this game. And that is the professors and several of the characters in the game. First off, your character, voice-wise, there's nothing really to choose from. There's one voice for male or female. As far as the professors go, now, the main thing is that this is primarily set in England. I believe the actual school is somewhere in Scotland. So, I believe most of the teachers either hail from Scotland, Ireland, or the UK. There might be a few other places nearby, but I'm pretty sure, even though it's never been officially announced or said as far as I know, I'm pretty sure Asia has their own version of Hogwarts. Mainly probably following like the Chinese magic stuff, like believing in the zodiacs and stuff like that. I could see them having a massive Chinese school for witches and wizards and keeping it such a big secret. Or just, in Asia altogether, which we know that there's kind of one like in Russia, which is, I think, where Durmstrang is. It's up in that area. It may not be exactly Russia, but it's like up in that general area, which probably includes countries like Germany, Russia, the Ukraine, every little place around there. And I'm sure that Africa has their own, which would include places like India, Egypt, South Africa. We know that there is one in America, so it's fine that we didn't see like any Americans. But there are so many forced in diverse ethnicity. So many diverse teachers that it kind of became like breaking. Like, really? Really? Are you kidding me? Okay, fine. They weren't very good characters. They weren't that engaging. I did not care to speak with them. I don't mind maybe having one or two, but there was just too much. And it just felt very forced. Especially since this is supposed to be much earlier in the Harry Potter world where things were even more anal about purity and who got into Hogwarts. It just did not seem to fit. They didn't click. And also, there was a trans character in the game, which was painfully obvious. And I just rolled my eyes when that happened. I was like, oh my god. And trans people are supposedly offended or boycotting this game because of what J.K. Rowling said, when the makers have basically just put in a free pass saying, we're not listening to what J.K. said. We believe what you guys believe, so buy our game. Yet they're all still getting annoyed and telling you to boycott the game. So, see what pandering to that audience does? Absolutely nothing. You know what going against that audience does? Makes you a bitch ton of money. So maybe next time you won't pander to that small little audience on Twitter. Maybe you'll actually listen to the people that buy your game. But with that said, as I said before, I would give this a 7 out of 10. It is in no way a perfect game. It's not a horrible game, but it's not a perfect game either. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot that probably isn't going to make me want to replay it once I finish it all, but maybe I will. I guess my last gripe, too, is also that it really doesn't matter what house you choose, what you start with, or whatever. Because so far, like all the ones where it says choose your own path, choose your own destiny, it's going to have the same ending no matter what. The only difference is what color you're wearing. Just like the Star Wars games that says choose the light side or the dark side. The only difference was the color lightsaber and the powers you used along the way. That's it. And people who have actually completed this game already have said it really doesn't make a difference. I knew that going in. I had a good feeling about that. It would have been better if, maybe they had, taken this game for the long haul and said, oh no, you're going to start as the first year. And then when you beat, then, after the first year, we'll release a DLC that will unlock year 2. And then another DLC that'll unlock year 3, and so on and so forth. Until you finish the story, which you would finish with the final year at Hogwarts, similar to the movies. At best, what they could do now is DLC that unlocks year 6 and year 7. So basically, they got 2 sequels, or the 2 possible sequels. Now, a lot of people said, oh, well, where can they go from here? Because you learn so much and you have so much magic. But what they could do is they could make, even if they make like a Hogwarts Legacy 2 that takes place in your 6th year, then they could have a thing that some games, not many, some games have had in the past, where you can transfer your save data from the first game over to the new game, which will basically start you with everything you had. And since the level cap is at level 40, well, in the next game, it goes up to, you can get up to 60. But now, you're already a high level, so it's going to be a lot harder. But I digress. So anyways, that's my thoughts on Hogwarts Legacy. If you're a big Harry Potter fan, there will be aspects of this game you like. You'll enjoy it. As far as gameplay goes, it's really good. You get to fly in a broom. You get to do a lot of stuff that they get to do in the books and movies. If you're a purist, you're going to notice the flaws. You'll notice the things they got right and the things they got wrong. I, being an author who wrote a similar, not exactly the same, but something similar to Harry Potter, I have listened to Harry Potter a lot. So I've seen the movies a lot too. My mother got to watch almost the entire franchise. It was her favorite movie series before she passed away. So that was kind of also my inspiration for writing the book series I wrote. But I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll have more to dive into. Hello there. I promise we'll get right back to the video shortly. I just wanted to say that many writers, YouTubers, readers, and gamers often talk about one thing that they all share in common, and that is drinking coffee. And perhaps you're tired of going out and ordering expensive high-end coffees and cappuccinos from huge corporations, and are looking for a way to have that same or better coffee brewed right in your own home. So I want to ask that you consider trying Coffee Brand Coffee. You can order from an array of different blends that will be delivered right to your door. And if coffee is not your thing, they also have teas, cocos, and chocolates. Why am I doing this, you may ask? Well, for a long time now, I have been a fan of a channel called The Quartering, which is constantly reporting on the news, and the head of the channel, Jeremy, has worked really hard for his viewers over the time I've watched this channel. He has done so much, helping out others and smaller channels, working hard to make several videos a day, which I can tell you, does take quite a good amount of work. And recently, he started his own coffee company. So if you're willing to try and change to a better coffee, tea, or K-cup because you need that sweet caffeine fix to get you through writing that next novel, reading that next book, playing that new video game long into the late hours of the night, or starting off early in the morning for a long live stream, then head over to the website for Coffee Brand Coffee or check out the channel The Quartering and see what delicious specials they have going on.
For thousands of years, the world has been protected by the Guardian of Light, or as he is more commonly known, Santa Claus. Over the centuries, factors such as fear and prejudice, greed and jealousy, misunderstandings, betrayal and war have segregated most humans from the magical world of elves, fairies, wizards, and the like. This has resulted in many misconceptions and generalizations of the true nature of Santa and his world.
This 6-book series by Sean Connaughton begins as the current of a long series of guardians is murdered by a group of monstrous enemies recently escaped from an enchanted South Pole prison. These creatures are loyal to the darkness, an evil force determined to exterminate the light in order to enslave all creatures of the world.
Shane Connor, an average young man, suddenly finds himself being trained as the new guardian. As he adapts to his new life among fantastic creatures, he goes on an adventurous quest with a legendary wizard for the ultimate weapon to use against the darkness, and faces murderous enemies like Rasputin, Morgana Le Fay, Krampus, and many more.
Along with his best friend Joe Gomez, Shane encounters politics, history, mysterious murders, new loves, his own hidden past, and racial dynamics among the fantasy races that turn out to be all too real. Their adventures reveal the true nature of the world and challenge the current state of how all races interact.
This series expertly melds myths, legends, history, faiths, folklore, and secret societies into a fascinating, cohesive, comprehensive world of wonder and magic.
From Atlantis to Olympus, from Hades to the moon, and from broomstick races to Christmas deadlines, join the new Santa Claus on his amazing journey. But beware! Will Shane's quest achieve his ultimate goal of destroying the darkness and preserving the light of the world? Or is he actually playing right into a plot by dark forces that will result in his, and our, ultimate doom?
So make your list and check it twice for the Guardian of Light book series. Download your audiobook or ebook today from Audible, Amazon, or iTunes.
All right, and we are back. Okay, so Matt Walsh recently had, a couple weeks ago, he made a comment. Or I should say a video, podcast, in which he basically watched a video from Dylan Mulvaney, and he criticized Dylan Mulvaney for not being real. Basically saying that he's not really a man because he's trying to become a woman, but he will never be a woman either. And a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people basically, called Matt out on this and basically said, Matt, you was too harsh, too mean to Dylan Mulvaney. And Matt basically replied, no, he wasn't. And I really wanted to make a video on it right at the time, but I decided to wait. And I'm actually glad I did because, people, they're just not letting this go. They're just not understanding that, Matt Walsh was right. If you listen to everything Matt Walsh has to say on the subject, and I have had my moments in the past where Matt Walsh says something and I'm saying, no, I think you're going a little too far on this. First off, just because you don't like it doesn't mean there are not people out there that do enjoy it. I won't say what those things are, but there are things that, he's pretty hard stance guy where he doesn't seem to like much of anything. He doesn't seem to like many movies. I'd be I'd be shocked if he actually was a fan of Harry Potter. I don't think he is because, you know, I think he has made several comments about J.K. Rowling, even though J.K. Rowling is basically kind of on his side as far as politics go. But no, basically, he doesn't like the Marvel movies and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, they were good at one point. There are some that are good. But no, Matt Walsh does not like a lot of anything. But I want to go out and say that not only do I think Matt Walsh was mean, I mean, that's kind of his stick. That's kind of how he is. And honestly, I think he, even for his standards of what he would give his audience, I think he was too nice about it. First off, he says that Dylan Mulvaney is never going to be a woman, which is true. And that he's lost what makes him a man. Yet he still calls Dylan Mulvaney he. Still refers to Dylan as a man. Sorry, but Matt, he's neither. He's neither a man or a woman. He is an it. He is, like you said, some weird amalgamation between man and woman. And he will never be one or the other. He can never go back to what he was, and he can never become what he wants to be. That is the blunt, honest truth. So the way Matt said it, I feel like was too nice. Because he keeps referring to this person as he. And Dylan is not a he anymore. He is never going to be a she. Dylan is an it. Like, it's Pat. Does anybody remember It's Pat from Saturday Night Live? God. Could you imagine if that was made nowadays? Saturday Night Live would be canceled so long ago. Hell, I'm surprised Saturday Night Live's not canceled because they made that a long time ago. That's one of the left's favorite things, is to find things you did in the past and cancel you for it. And yet, nope, it's fine. Actually, it probably is a sign of all the times that this was all building up. And yet now people are leaving the Daily Wire because of the things Matt said and other content creators at the Daily Wire have said. Basically because Matt started this trend of speaking the truth, which, people have been doing a lot more lately, speaking more and more of the truth. Like, it's about time. And yes, Matt is right. There are many people who have kept their mouths shut because, well, because of the day and age we're living in. Now, this has been called many things, but the absolute truth, the left has been telling you what the truth is all this time, and people have ignored it. Well, I mean, they haven't really ignored it. They've ignored the signs of what this is. And the truth is, we are experiencing World War III. The first two world wars were fought with countries coming together, working against each other. But now you have governments working together against their people, trying to overthrow their people and silence them. And God help you if you are in a place that has already lost. Places like Canada, England. Those places, they're done. They lost. Their citizens are being arrested if they say something. Their children are being taken away by the government. So the governments can turn them into the opposite sex. Little girls are being turned into boys. You know what else? The left often likes to call the right Nazis. They often like to say, oh, well, this is like World War II. Except one problem. They are exactly what they're claiming other people are. They are the ones acting like the Germans. They are the ones coming into people's houses and arresting them. Using the government power to barge into your home and take you out of it. To take away your children that you will never see again. Okay, so there were probably some people who changed their lifestyle because who was made out to be the biggest villains against the Germans? The Jews. I mean, first off, you want to talk about a group that's been the most oppressed throughout history, it's probably the Jewish people. But the Jews, some of them probably, changed their ways, changed their looks, worked on changing their accents so they could hide and try to be normal people. What do we got going on right now? We have all these places saying how bad it is to be a white, straight male. And you got all these white, straight males suddenly transforming themselves into women. And they're being celebrated and they're being thrown up on stages like, oh, look at how perfect they are. Dylan Mulvaney is a really good spokesperson for that. It has made it a perfect star on TikTok. So much that it gets to sit down with the freaking president of the United States. And yes, I know what I'm doing. I'm purposely saying it each time. Because of what I said earlier. Now, you want to talk about mean? I know that's mean. But there's only two genders. And it's what you're born with. Like, me and a friend of mine, we were having this discussion the other day. And he said, no, if you go get surgery, doesn't matter. Your blood holds certain cells that are always going to exist. No matter how much you keep pumping into your body, no matter how much estrogen you keep pumping into your body physically still knows what its original program is and is going to try to keep that original program. Even if you chop off body parts, even if you remove body parts, you cannot replace every part of you. Otherwise, you're not the same person. And where do you think all that information is stored that tells the body what to do. You think that the lungs tell the heart to pump? No. All that information, every last stitch of information in your body is in your brain. So replace all the parts you want, because until you can replace your brain, your body is still going to say, oh no, this is a male body. I made this a male body at birth. I made this into a male body a long time ago. You can't override the brain as much as you might try to. As much as you may wish it and think it, your brain will, you aren't telling your brain to make sure you keep breathing while you're asleep or while you're eating. You do not tell your brain this information. Your brain just knows to do it because it's been doing it since you were born, since you were alive, since you were able to exist outside of the womb on your own. Your brain has been calling the shots. Your brain stores all the information, all the data it needs to keep your body healthy as what you were. Doing the opposite, no matter how much you try, is going to cause negative effects. Try to run foreign programs on a desktop installed with, Windows. I'm pretty sure they're not going to work well together. Especially if Windows is always the primary program. And since you cannot reprogram a brain, the body is always going to see the cells that, I need to make this cell for a male because this is what I am programmed to do. So, no. You cannot just change what you want. You do not have the skeletal structure. We are different on so many levels, men and women. And women are getting annoyed with this because why is it more men are the ones doing the transitioning? Well, to that, I'll have to say the fault falls with the women and the feminists and the government. Especially recently, we've been being told how bad it is to be a white male. So some of these people decide they're going to play the system. Fine, I'm not a white male anymore. I'm a white female. Now what you going to do? They're playing the game that you set up. And then you're complaining about it. This is a war of information. This is a war of stupidity, really. Because, like Matt said, people were basically silenced into a submission by embarrassment. Oh, if you say something, you're racist. You're a transphobe. You're a bigot. And for a while, those were big terms. Those were terms that people were like, well, I'm not that. I don't want to be labeled that. I never cared about label. I know I am not racist because I get mad at racist people. And honestly, this entire thing from day one when it started really taking off, I've been like, you know what? This shit is more racist than most racist people that I've met. Most of the racist people I've met, they make sly little comments. They make little jokes. But now we're basically taking, say an African American or a black person or a person of color, whatever you want to call them. You're basically putting them up on a stage and saying, Look at this one person because we tell you to. Because of the skin color, look at them. Give them your attention. Give them your admiration. Make them feel special because of the color of their skin. It's wrong. It goes against everything that people like Martin Luther King have been fighting against the entire time. The entire time, they just wanted to be treated as equals. They wanted you to see that their blood is red, just like yours and mine. That it was what was under our skin that mattered, not the color of their skin. They wanted you to look past that. But no. That's all we focus on nowadays. What color skin do they have? Oh, they have black skin? Well, gotta bump them up. They have zero experience, but treat them special because they have a different skin color. Honestly, if I were in the black community, I'd probably find that very insulting. And honestly, a lot of black people are starting to find that very insulting. Like the new Disney Peter Pan and Wendy trailer just dropped like a week ago, and it has been downvoted into oblivion. And the number one problem that people seem to have with it, at the very top, I mean, there's a lot of different problems with it, but the number one reason is they made Tinkerbell black. You know what? My ex-wife was a huge Tinkerbell fan. I don't talk to her much anymore. But I did watch the movies with her whenever she got them. And I swear Tinkerbell had a black friend that was a fairy. So why do we need to actually change Tinkerbell? And you know what? Changing Tinkerbell is so very disgraceful to Disney. And Disney's doing it to themselves. They're disgracing themselves and being the most racist against themselves. And why do I say this? Well, I'll tell you, because there are three key main Disney characters that were iconic to Disney and their brand and their properties. And those three characters were Mickey Mouse, Tinkerbell, and Jiminy Cricket. Those three, among every other character they've had, have probably been the three most used characters in their roster. I mean, because of course you got Mickey Mouse's face on almost everything. Tinkerbell, a bunch of the movies started off with the Disney logo and then her flicking her wand and like it disappeared or lit up. Jiminy Cricket's voice, I remember as a child, would be playing on the speakers during the fireworks show. Jiminy Cricket also was the narrator and the author of like the Disney sing-alongs that came out a long time ago. He's been used so much in so many different things that had nothing to do with Pinocchio. So, yes, those are Disney's three most iconic characters, and they're already changing Tinkerbell. At least they didn't really change Jiminy Cricket in the new live action. I can't wait to see if they're going to try to do it to Mickey. Then we're going to have two female mouses. And they'll be lesbians. Why? Well, just because they want to They want to be diverse, even though, that's why so many people, if you think about it, they're kind of setting you up for what they want the future to be. I mean, it's never going to be because this is never going to end until one side loses. But they're kind of setting it up that they want everyone to be trans. They want everyone to be bisexual. That you don't see gender. See, we got this all ass backwards. They want you to see the color of people's skin, but not what gender they are. Whereas before, we saw people's gender, and for a while, maybe a very short while, but for a while, we didn't really see the color of people's skin. I mean, it was always kind of in the background. It was always kind of there. I remember certain TV shows growing up that still were hammering in that message, but it was like, really there's no point. Because racism was about dead. It was practically over. You almost won the race war. And then you went so far over, you started it back up again. Only now you're on the opposite side, where you're on the bad side of it. Because once again, as I said earlier, the whole thing was not to look at people's skin color, but to look at what was underneath the skin. We are all human, and unless you're an alien from another world, we all bleed red. But these people, they don't care about that. They just care, what skin color do you have? We don't care what your educational background is. We don't care where you're from. Are you not white? And, here's the really funny thing. First off, just so everybody in America knows this, I mean, not like anybody is really going to watch this, but for those who do, you can spread this on. You do realize that white is just a general term. Do you know where white people in this country came from? We didn't just spring up out of the ground here. There are many, many different countries, mostly in Europe, that have white people. A large amount of those people came over here at one time or another. Some came from England. Some came from Ireland. Probably a good portion came from Ireland. Some came from Italy. Some came from Scotland. Some came from Denmark. Iceland. Eventually Australia. They came from all over the world. So, and as far as the whole slavery thing, you want to make us feel bad for slavery when I'm here to tell you something that I pay attention to. A lot of different people talk about slavery, and they always keep bringing up slavery in America. Slavery in America. Slavery in America was so bad. Was it? Are you sure? Are you sure that nobody throughout history had it worse? I mean, granted, I would not want to be a slave in any sense of the word, but I mean, slaves were fed. Because if you don't feed your slaves, guess what? They die. And if they're not eating, if you're not feeding them, then they're not going to be able to put in a lot of good work to work in the fields that you have them working. Now, true, they may not have had great meals, but I'm sure they had meals. Decent enough meals to feed them. And they had women, they had families, because if they're not having families, you got to keep buying more when you could just grow your own. I mean, look at the people who had marijuana back when it was actually legal. Yeah, did they go out and buy some? Yes, but there were people who tried to grow their own. Why? So they did not have to keep buying more. It's just a matter of taking the risk. And once you got enough slaves, you can just basically grow your own and sell them amongst here. Did they have shelter? Well, of course, you got to keep them safe. You got to keep them, if you got to keep them fed, you got to keep them safe. Safe from the elements, safe from people trying to steal them. I mean, as you guys constantly keep pointing out, slaves cost money. So yes, they had to keep them safe. Honestly, it was more like just forced work without pay. But you got free room and board, free food, and if you messed up, you got severely punished. Yes, it was bad. But I guarantee you that it was still better than what the Africans did to their own during the time of Egypt. When I believe in the Bible, it talks about slaves being fed to lions. Slaves being killed merely for the enjoyment of the people. And who were those slaves? Well, those were the Jews. I'm sure there were some other slaves in there, black slaves, white slaves, because the Egyptians had kind of the authority at the time. Whenever people talk about ancient Africa, they don't really talk about Africa, they talk about Egypt, which sits right at the top of Africa. So I'm pretty sure they had slaves from all over building their pyramids, and I'm sure they had a lot worse treatment than the ones in America, who were fed, protected, clothed, and housed. Like I said, if you actually read the Bible, you would know that Jews have been suffering long before black people. And I'm not even Jewish, and I'm saying this. Now, this is just simple facts here. And then, as my family likes to point out, black people are upset about what happened to their ancestors, because, first off, black people do not just come from one place. There's black people in South America. There's black people in other countries that came from other countries, that blended with other countries. But the ones that came to America were sold to us by their own people. So you want to be mad? Be mad at your ancestors first for putting you in this situation where you're in a country where you have the right to complain about, oh wait, kind of lost the point there, didn't we? So if your ancestors never sold your ancestors to the slave owners that brought you here, then you would not exist now to be arguing the point. Right? So who are you mad at? You know what? It wasn't really good for anybody back then, was it? Shit. White people were killing white people build this land in the first place. Hell, I mean, you want to talk about what happened? We basically stole this land from England because England was trying to claim it as theirs. Amongst all those countries that tried to lay claim to America, the Spaniards, the Italians, it was the English who came over and said, nope, it belongs to us. Try and take it from us. And basically at that point we were like, okay, yeah, try sending more troops and we'll stop you. So it wasn't good for anybody. But back to my point. I know it's been a long time since I was at my point. We're living in World War III right now. A lot of people are calling this the culture war or social war. It is World War III because it's not just happening here in America. It is happening all over the world. And now people are finally stepping up. People are finally fighting back. And to everybody who does have a large platform, I say continue on. You have my full support. People like Matt Walsh, God bless him, because I wish I had the numbers he had to reach the people I could reach, but I don't. Maybe one day my books will take off. Maybe one day things will get better. I mean, my book talks about unity amongst everybody, not just one group or another. I guess that's the overall message in my books is be a good person. Get along with everybody you can because things work better when we work together. You want to know why we had... Matt, if you ever watch this, if you ever wonder, why the hell won't an alien race come to this planet and make contact and help us? Because they probably have come by here and they said, this is a planet of crazy people that can't seem to learn. Stay away from them. I mean, first off, if you watch our movies and our history, we are not a race to be trusted. Aliens come here, we're going to, whether they're peaceful or not, we're going to try to kill them. And we're going to try to take their tech, turn it around for our interest, so we can go kill more of them and take over their worlds. I mean, shit, you basically have been saying that. It's what we did to the Native Americans. Even though technically they were doing it to themselves to begin with. We just came along and put some order in the chaos. But that is why aliens will not come to this planet and make peaceful arrangements with us. Or help us in any way of traveling the universe. Because why would they? This planet is probably like quarantine to them. Stay away, it's dangerous. These guys ever make it to space, we're in trouble. They don't know how to be peaceful. I've often told everybody, we are a race that cannot survive. We literally cannot live in peace. We need some kind of conflict, some kind of war, something always going on, or our society collapses. I mean, we've gotten to the point where now this is just generated, self-generating conflict. We're generating it on purpose by saying, oh, the truth doesn't matter. Forget the truth. Forget what's real. Forget what you know. Unlearn what you've learned. This is the truth now because we say so. And finally, people are saying no. I don't agree with that. I don't care what you call me. I don't care what you have to say. I don't agree. And the biggest speakers are the ones that are probably the most protected. So I don't know if everybody's going to get to see this or hear this message, but I hope enough people do. And I hope enough people listen to it. And I'm so glad you could sit and enjoy this. I'll speak to you all next time. Have a good day.